All right, we are live. We have Andreas Sertis.
Go Bernie, it's your birthday. That was a good intro. I like that one.
It was short and sweet, science. And we have Nancy and John Hutchinson with us tonight, as well as joined by Simon C. out of, is it Ottawa or Toronto? Toronto, good.
Dude, how do I just like align with all these Canadians? Like this is like the Canadian alignment, I'm gonna call it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We outnumber everybody else for some reason, despite being a tiny country.
Maple magic. It's just it's quality over quantity in Canada. Nancy, we're so grateful to have you back. Thank you so much for joining us with John. This is awesome. John, thank you for being here. It's just great to have both of you to tell us these things, both from real life experience and from all kinds of crazy philosophical studies you've done. Thank you for being here.
Okay. Thank you for... Well, what are we? We're going to talk power cells tonight. Is that right?
That is true. Yeah.
Okay. So,
down to brass tacks. I like it.
Well, so I had a personality whatever test done, and so like only 3% of the population think in the manner that I do, that answer the questions. And of that 3%, it's like only 10% of them are women. So I've always been a tomboyish kind of in the guys' world. I've always broken down and done things that women aren't supposed to do. So because that's the guys' stuff, But
well, it's 2022 going into 2023, and we don't believe in, I guess.
I don't believe in any kind of restrictions from any ride, personally. You get on whatever ride you want to get on. I'm from Disneyland. They're telling me they're going to tell you can't do something. The main thing about you is you're willing to do stuff. That's hilarious. They're trying to tell you that certain kinds of people aren't supposed to do certain kinds of things, and you're doing it anyway. I mean, you're doing incredible stuff. You're not doing crimes.
Well, and that's, when I met up with John and stuff, I was, show me your stuff. And I didn't realize it until we were just talking that he didn't have, when we met, he didn't have his entire lab for Hutchinson effect. So you sweating bullets. You're going to go down the Gulf of Mexico and you don't have, and we're trying stuff with the equipment that he had there, and there was nothing happening because we had created our own oil slicks and all this kind of stuff. And it was when we just came up with, hey, I got these tones that we've been using with the power cells. And I kept these tones, and I had to bring this file, and I had this laptop. And so we ran those tones, and instantaneously the oil was transmutated. We put the tones through his system, and those tones basically replaced a lot of the equipment that was missing from
wow. This has been coming up a lot, the idea that sound or sonication or whatever, because we don't understand, sound might just be the reaction to something going on, this phenomena, right? We were looking at these kinds of worms that can only perceive, they have the cochlear where the bone would evolve, and they have what is eventually to become an eyeball, but it's like only able to perceive certain micro frequencies within ultraviolet light and certain sound frequencies that we can't perceive, like higher pitches. And it's attached to their brainstem. So in general, it seems like we're so lucky we're hearing the sounds, but there's got to be something underneath it that's just broader and more impactful that we're not even recognizing. I mean, you're telling me it's changing the structure of the oil?
Oh, you don't know what happened in the Gulf of Mexico when we were down there?
Dude, tell us what happened. Ma'am, please tell us. Nancy, tell us what happened in the Gulf of Mexico.
The BP oil disaster.
Right.
Yeah, John and I had been living together for almost a year. He had to go back to Canada. We had already done the flagpole thing once. You know, go to Canada, come back every 6 months, kind of a thing, right? So, and BP oil disaster had just happened, and I asked him if he could transmutate metals, you know, and make them into something that's
Bernie, let's pull up this picture to show people.
yeah. And I said, can you take something that's all screwed up and make it better, you know, like the oil slick thing. So
Wow, that was one of the craziest oil slicks, right? It was like thousands, millions of gallons, something insane. And when they looked to blame people, the entire board were just a bunch of dead names, right? And they had no one to be culpable for what they have done.
Oh, it gets better. So, I mean, yeah. So anyway, in John's lab, had this O-scope set up, and we videotaped this. And John was nude at the time, and I had to keep saying, John, move your legs so you don't show your shit, you know. And so, but we had all this different waters, and different clean and polluted, and from we had actual water from the Gulf of Mexico with an oil globby thing in it. And so we took the readings with these long silver tube things. What do you call those suckers?
Oh, yeah, the radar unit.
Yeah, but what do you call them? Anodes or something? What do you call those things?
Yeah.
And put them in the water and picked up the frequencies in the water, and they were like, in the one with when he hit the one with the oil in it, it was like off the chart of the O-scope. It was like crazy bad. And as soon as we hit the tones through his system, where he took the tones and they modulated the RF with these tones, and it came out in his thing that he does, and it was like instantaneous. All of them had
Wow.
the same pattern in the O-scope, which was the clean water. And so
memory and structure, they really matter.
well, yeah.
And transmutating the oil back into water through specific sound resonant frequencies, if that's...
Well, I think what we found in the Gulf when we were there is that the water would go crystal clear, and then we see these little bits of what we thought was like carbon floating and dropping down to the bottom. And I think it was breaking up the hydrocarbons. But you know, the thing is that God, where was I? Why did I even get over here and talk about the Gulf? Because you guys didn't know we were down there. We were down there for October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, about 9 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
That long?
Yeah, and we went from beach to beach to private citizens and just plugged in the equipment and cleaned up. And,
Amazing.
And there's a current that goes into the Gulf of Mexico, and it makes a loop current. It goes into the Gulf, and then goes around Florida, and then shoots its way back out across the Atlantic and goes to England. And that loop current, because of the level of pollution, you know, whatever, it had stopped. It had disconnected. It was no longer going into the Gulf. And I got onto NOAA's site, and I was able to find where their data was concerning any of the currents in the Gulf. And basically, the Gulf of Mexico had turned into a stagnant swamp. There was no current happening in the Gulf of Mexico. And I tracked when we were there, when we went on location, within hours, there'd be a little bit of current right next to where we were that was starting in the Gulf. And then we'd go someplace and we'd go another spot on the Gulf, and there'd be like now 2 currents. And then we'd get in the middle, and then we'd wrap it, you know, it started to wrap then along like a crescent along the Florida coast and Georgia and where Louisiana up in there. And I was in touch with a Navy colonel about the situation with the loop current and stuff, and I said, "Watch, I can see it. What we're doing up on the top of the Gulf here,
Amazing.
it's pulling in the loop. You can see it, and I tracked it, and I called it what day it would connect, and that was the day that the loop current reconnected, and it connected right up along the coast there where we had built that line of currents, and it got up there and it wrapped around Florida, and 3 days later there was oil on the shores of England, courtesy of the Gulf of Mexico BP oil disaster.
And so you're saying by putting some RF frequencies into it, it seemed like you were able to get the oil back into water or purify it, break it down into carbon and its more basic structures.
Yeah, well, the Coast Guard was it the Coast Guard? Yeah, the Coast Guard have, for 50 years, if they have a fuel leak or something, they're supposed to hit it with high frequency radio waves in order to break up their leak that they did. They've known that for years. I don't know. I just know that I was supposed to run for the Minnesota Supreme Court, and they chickened out. The Republican Party decided that they wouldn't endorse me. And so I went to go get John Hutchinson and go to the Gulf of Mexico and see if we could save some people. So
We need way weirder Republicans. See, that's the problem. I don't know what they're doing. That's too bad. That would have been fun. If you ever decide to run in Minnesota, I'll definitely vote for you. Don't worry.
yeah, well, I had a TV show there. I was into judicial reform and writing legislation, and we actually did some positive things that were there. But when I was on the Gulf of Mexico and I looked out across the bay, Mobile Bay, and we got a hurricane coming in from two sides, and you can see these storms, and they're going to meet right in the middle, right where we are, right there. And we got the ray gun going this way, and we have absolutely clear skies above us, and the storm literally stalled. It took like 2-3 minutes of us running the equipment, and bam, the whole thing just stalled and just stopped right where it was. And Dutch Since, even, I don't know if you know Dutch Since, and he was into the weather stuff.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Quite well. We're supposed to be doing an interview very soon.
Right. He identified like a reverse signature of these weird things that would happen, and you'd get really bad weather. And where we were, it was like a reverse signal of that. We had a bubble there. Okay, so John Hutchinson, created a bubble. And so that's when the Fukushima blew. We had a decision to make, how much, the Gulf of Mexico did not get hit by the shit coming from Fukushima.
Right.
Because we were there and we put up a shield right there.
But so we were just looking at some papers, and I just kind of pulled up a few in the background as well. But over the last few weeks, talking about sonication, and you just mentioned as well the idea of restructuring oil, breaking down oil. It can naturally be broken down in the ocean, but with radiation, the oil can break down quicker. So is it possible that maybe somehow the Fukushima was benefiting the breaking down of oil?
Fukushima was benefiting.
I mean, isn't it the strangest idea that there could be a good in all of the bad? But the idea that there's so much oil, that's all these oil spills, is that too much, you think?
No, I think it was something. There's something else that happened, and I'm not prepared to share what happened.
Oh, okay.
But there's something else that happened that it was just.
Fukushima was after.
Fukushima was after the BP.
Yeah. Right. So I was suggesting perhaps, after an oil spill, maybe a Fukushima radiation to break an oil spill.
I'll give you a piece of it.
Okay.
What's the response of our government to a foreign nation coming on our shores and threatening our population, which is what BP is, okay, was to allow the same company that owns BP to also profit and benefit from a product called Corexic. Corexic was the Halliburton group.
Oh.
And we inadvertently happened to land in the Halliburton parking lot without really realizing it in the middle of bumfuck Egypt out there. So anyway, it was Corexic. And what they were doing is saying, well, it's no different than Dawn dishwashing liquid, but
Wow.
But
Okay.
No, listen. The fishermen are not allowed to use Dawn dishwashing liquid in their boats because it's so hazardous. Okay. All right. So what it does is it breaks down that the surface tension, and it makes water really sharp. So people that were getting sprayed with this Corexic, and we knew somebody that had happened to, they died because the water was piercing their cells, and it was drowning their cells from the Corexic.
My God.
So.
And there's pictures of this stuff here. Bernie, pull this up. Yeah, I mean, not that I didn't immediately believe you anyway, because that sounds way more logical than any of the nonsense I heard on TV at the time. But here is the evidence for what Nancy's talking about. Here's Corexic right here, EC 9500 from the Environmental Protection Agency. Here's some pictures of some really, good guys, I'm sure, dropping, just getting paid to do their job, dropping what is probably at least as bad, it sounds like, as detergent, like dishwashing detergent, which, so imagine you're a bird. I'm just saying. And one day it's an oil, and then the next day it's oil on fire, and followed by that, it's like literally Tide detergent. That seems like the worst possible weekend, Yeah.
So
they were trying to make money off this, and they didn't want actual solutions. Okay.
Right. And I mean, and so, I mean, there were different, the Navy was getting a hold of the Coast Guard saying, what the hell are you doing? What the Hutchinsons are doing is working, and it's not hurting anything. And the Coast Guard said, fuck off, we do whatever we want, we're under the president, and you can't tell us what to do, and we're going to spray this shit. So.
Wow.
And I actually have that without the profanity in it in emails between these people and with us. So anyway, so Fukushima blew, and so we decided to work on the issue with the radioactivity, and from the tones that were used on the Gulf of Mexico, we started working with radioactive samples and testing the radioactive samples. I would set up these tones and create a field. What?
Get another slide share.
Yeah. Well, anyway, all that happened, and this whole time we were in the Gulf of Mexico, I had been working on the power cells, and we had power cells sitting there. I had one that was a pumice stone, which is what landscaping stone, get pumice stone, and I had soaked it in this compound, and no, it was when it was, you heat it up, that one, and I just poured it onto the pumice rock and let it, go in there, and I had 2 screws, and I'm pretty sure they were different metals. I'm pretty sure I had 2 different metal screws in.
You sure?
Or you think it was one the same?
I don't know. I don't remember. I did take a video of it.
Yeah, I've got the video somewhere. But we got power from the rock. You could clip on each screw, and there was some.
There.
There's 0.2 volts or something like that.
That's not bad. Off of the pumice stone, and what have you added to it?
No, it was a power cell.
Oh, off the power cell to the Okay.
So the power stone was just, and there are certain pigments that have voltage in it that this stuff can be doped with. So there's certain pigments that have, and John's actually taken just a bunch of rocks and organized them a certain way, and he's gotten, how much have you gotten voltage and amps off of that?
In rocks?
Yeah.
A couple of volts, maybe.
Gets a couple of volts and just pico on the amps.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things that happen in nature that we just ignore because we think that you've got to, have your electricity and it comes in the wall and you plug in your shit and then things run. And that's the only way that you're going to get your electricity is by buying it from somebody, So
Yeah.
There's lots of places to get energy.
That's true.
Yeah. What's it?
Right? Like even from the ground you can get current, or from the trees and the atmosphere. There's energy everywhere.
Right. Well, wherever there's motion, and so that that's, and the thought is the word, and the word is the act in these 301. So the thought is the decision for motion, and you move, and the movement is the thought, and it's the word. It's the energy, which is the motion. So all of your motion is thought. So all we're doing is experiencing being touched by the motion of thought. And there's, I think there's personalities in all the elements. Like the Whore of Babylon, I said is carbon. And so anybody know anything about Bible stuff? The Whore of Babylon likes to fuck everything. And that's carbon. And you got
That's actually a very good analogy.
That's better. See, I always like to call carbon, promiscuous, but I think you might have nailed it on the head there. I think carbon itself might be. That's a pretty interesting metaphor. I mean, if you think about these seriously, it's not just a metaphor. Islamics in alchemy, they would probably just look at you and say, "Yeah, I think you nailed it on the head. That's exactly right."
Right.
Well, and all alchemists, they atone different consciousness, planets, and life forms to the different elements.
Right. Well, you got your noble gases, and they don't want to, hook up with anybody. I mean, they're the absolute, hermit. Get away from me. I don't want to be around you kind of personality, but you can light them up if you hit them with electricity, which is interesting. So if you hit them with a thought, okay, which is electricity, it'll light up the noble gas. So it's like, all right, so those people that are hermits and stuff, if you hit them with a good thought, that'll light them up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, our thoughts are literally electricity. Yeah. So.
Well, yeah, and the thought is the word is the act. Go look it up sometime. It's the Essenes, the master Essenes. From the age of the ages is the eternal thought. I thought I gave that to you guys once, but anyway. So when we get into the power cells, okay, you are the salt of the earth. If you lose your saltiness, you're useless. You get, cast aside and trodden on. And, that's another biblical thing. So it requires saltiness for movement. Why? Why do we have to have just the slightest bit above neutral to have a potential hydrogen? So I think that says something, because we bring stuff in on the hydrogen van. Hydrogen is that first atom. And I think life has to be this slightly salty, which means that it has that potential for hydrogen. I wonder if we're bringing the hydrogen right into our bodies because of that.
The salt is the crystal that activates it, essentially.
Well, the salt makes you alkaline, which brings your pH up higher than neutral. Your blood is at 7.5. And if you that's what why people get cancer is because your body will always keep your blood at 7.5. And if your tissue is if it has some alkaline in that tissue and your body needs it to keep your blood at that 7.5, your tissue is going to turn over to the acid side, and that's when you get cancer, because cancer is acid level. And if you go alkaline, then the cancer can't replicate. So the salt is what keeps things moving.
And it just goes to show why the alchemists of old put such importance into the salt aspect of these reactions.
Yeah, well, salt was more valuable than gold at a certain time. Salt was really, really important.
That's where the term salary comes from, and the term any person worth their salt.
Yeah, that's the Roman soldiers got paid in salt. That's where you're right. That's where salary came from. Hmm. So that's it's the buffering of an acid. An acid can go crazy, but you get too alkaline and you can eat the shit out of stuff too. So I sent over that chart that showed things, right there. So and it's interesting because there's a galvanic corrosion risk on certain. Oh, do you see the rest of it? Did you guys get the rest of it? Or only that? Because it's actually says what they are. Yours doesn't say that, huh? No, maybe I should.
No, it doesn't. It looks like it's a little black and shaded in the
it's transparent.
corrodes, magnesium and alloys, zinc and alloys, aluminum and alloys, cadmium, steel,
Right.
Carbon, cast iron, stainless steels, lead, tin and alloys, nickel, brasses.
If you open it on a not dark mode window, it'll look okay.
Gotcha. That's what it is. Okay. Sorry,
that's how they get you.
Computer and still.
Don't be sorry you got a new computer. This is the best part. I mean, now that you know how to use it, it's like a gun. I mean, what?
It's a tool, not a gun.
Guns are tools.
See. There was also, oops, oh dear.
But don't point your laptop at you.
This
there
one
we go.
see. Okay, so with this chart here, Nancy, is this the potential difference in volts between the metals?
Well, yeah, this is your electromotive potentials. And so you see a lithium all the way up there. That's why people like lithium batteries. Because they're gonna go on the other end of the chart and put something in there. And I'm just wondering about that galvanic chart. What is going to be corrosive with lithium? And that might be what's causing all these batteries, these lithium batteries, to blow up, is they're not even reading their own shit.
Sounds like modern science and technology. So it's that you want to combine like the lithium, the potassium, strontium, these ones at the top with the high negative potential with ones on the bottom, such as the gold, palladium, platinum,
Right.
silver for the largest differential.
Right. For the sake of ease of handling, I tried to get some lithium in sheets, but I didn't. It's problematic. So for production purposes, all that stuff is problematic. But you go down to aluminum. So aluminum's at a negative 1.7, and so aluminum is something that I used, and that was my negative on a lot of the stuff. Like I go copper aluminum, I do silver aluminum, and when I did silver aluminum, I was getting over 2 volts on you saw that little screw.
Yeah. Right. So it's that you're using the negative ion metal as your cathode, and then your like soft metal, noble metals like the copper, silver, gold, platinum as your anodes. And then you're adding up the difference between the two, and that's what gives you the voltage in these crystal batteries, correct?
That's generally so. Yes, it's generally so. So when you get something that's okay, where's magnesium on there? Because I use magnesium.
Magnesium is about minus 1.1, it says, so just a little bit below aluminum.
No, that's manganese.
Oh, magnesium, not magnesium.
Well, it might be on a different list.
Appears to be so.
Magnesium is a hot little bugger. So this is the size. If you can look at it, this is actually this is the bigger of the screws. So, but you can see how small that screw is. I've got another screw that's half the size that I've also worked with.
Oh, wow. So what we're looking at right here, this is the miniature version, essentially, of the crystal batteries that you've gotten down. And you were saying that you were able to get almost 2 volts out of this when you combine the silver with aluminum, was it?
Right. Well, look at the meter. You can see it on the meter.
Oh, yeah. Look at that. 2.3. Just out of that little guy. So were you able to connect any of these in series to increase the voltage, or just that's the next step that we have to start building and testing and combining together sort of thing?
Well, that is one of the next steps. Let's keep going and keep going. One more. That's it. Now I'm going to talk about that in a second. But you can see the voltage on the meter up there.
Yeah.
I'm doing 1.0 blah blah blah. Right? It's for voltage, and it's not hooked. It's not hooked up to anything. What you see that's right under the meter? It looks like it's white. There's a little white thing. Yeah, that is actually pieces of foil that I was testing, and I'm picking voltage up in the air, and I'm wondering if that might have some of the problems that we have when we go into series, because you can put these into series 5, 6, in a straight line. I've gotten about that far. I've been able to stack them that way, and then you go to 7, and it goes back down and gives you the voltage of 1. And I'm just wondering what kind of magnetic field that might be happening. But if I put them in a star pattern instead of in a straight line, if I create a star pattern out of the cells, I can get up to 10, 12. I've gotten up to, with those guys, I've gotten up to 14, 15 volts.
Wow. That's actually really impressive with something that size and that much voltage out of them.
But it's pico in the amps, okay? So, I mean, if we could figure out a way on overcoming this magnetic field or whatever it is, this stray voltage that's just running around the stuff, because you can see there's stray voltage. You know, when you do your own stuff, take your meter and just see what kind of stray voltage you got running around the cells. And I've tried them in all types of different forms. That one is with foil. And then I've also tried to do a voltaic pile, which, again, you got the problem. You can only stack about 7 layers max, and then it goes down to, it won't stack the voltage. You're putting the stuff up in series that way in a pile. So there's something to do with the form it wants to be in.
The shape. Yeah. You're in my mind, I'm associating the toroid shape a lot within the magnetic fields, and that some of the star pattern coils they make are certain ways to harness the energies of that vortex magnetic field. And that, in my mind, would make sense why you're able to get so much more when you're putting it into those star shapes of series with it.
So please suggest from me that you get lithium strips from stripping lithium cadmium
Batteries. So
field repair. Oh, well, okay. Here's the thing: is that lithium's problematic, and
Right.
magnesium, is problematic. So why don't we work with stuff that's easy and that is readily available and it's not toxic? I mean, there's all kinds of different compounds you can use between two metals that, a positive metal and a negative metal. And I'm sure that you're going to be able to pick up power. I don't think that this Rochelle salt is the end all. I'm sure there's other things. And people have used borax. People have used, I think, just even Epsom salts. Epsom salts is part of what we use. But the thing is that the basic science of picking up energy between a positive electromotive potential metal and a negative electromotive potential metal. When you put a salt in there, like your blood, which is 7.5, and you got your minerals running around, which are actually those metals, that's what keeps the body moving. That is what this whole system of life is based on. So when we look at this, you can see how tiny you can get, and you can still get voltage off of it. You could get down into the nano scale on this thing.
Oh, absolutely. This is extremely impressive and crucial information. And that it's exactly this. The main aspect, like you're saying, is the combining of the negative ioned metals with the positive difference between them. And the larger the difference, the more potential everybody will be able to utilize out of it.
Right, and the greater your surface area, the more amperages you're going to get. But if you can have a box that you hold in your hand that has 10 million volts and 1 picoamp, I think you can convert that. You can convert it to run a car or a house or something.
And that is exactly what we all need.
Well, and it's a scientific principle that's being ignored because they're all into radiation, which is moving stuff really fast, heating the shit out of it, blowing it up, gasoline, boom, boom, grab the water coming down in the force. This is a completely different thought process. This is not trying to do something out of force. It's looking at how we already operate with life forms on this planet. We are the whores of Babylon. I mean, come on. We're carbon-based life forms. We think we would have figured this shit out by now. So, and maybe that's what we're supposed to do, is figure this out. Maybe that's why we're here at this point in time.
Right. So, and you're saying aluminum's a pretty good one for the cathode that you've had some success with. I've seen also Charlie made his cathode out of aluminum, as well as the laser sabers versions as well. But that it looks like here, if people were to use sodium or calcium, you're getting an extra full volts more just out of that combination potentially.
Well, if you can get a sheet of calcium.
Right, yeah, exactly. That's the issue.
Okay, and so, what materials are ready available? Aluminum sucks trying to solder that shit, but but aluminum is easy enough to use in the context of like a 3D printer. And so, yeah. I mean, aluminum copper has been the most readily available. You get decent, you're ending up at about 0.75, 0.78, somewhere there is your voltage. You kick into silver and you can crank that up a lot. But it costs more, and it's I got silver plated stuff, which is the thinnest layer of silver you can imagine on there. And that's not corroding. That's not tarnishing. That's problem with sodium carbonate is how dangerous they are to work with and difficult. Yes, exactly. That's curing that. Yeah, whoever just typed that up is exactly what I was saying.
Right. So in
Interesting.
how much? So in this little guy right here, is that silver and aluminum or?
Yep, that's a silver plated jewelry screw. You can get them on Etsy. I got all kinds of different shapes and forms and things that were silver plated and gold plated. Gold plated was great. Oh God, I had so much fun with those little gold screws. But gold's problematic with cost. Silver is a fraction of that. So
Absolutely. Big difference, right? And it's just to be getting it to work and building them. It's copper and aluminum is a good place to start for the average person.
Right.
In this little cell here, though, what do you have the salts in there as well?
Yes.
And
That's a piece of aluminum, and I've got a piece of black electrical tape over there just holding it together.
nice.
It's just a folded over piece of aluminum. And inside of the screw is the compound.
And the average compound you're using is Rochelle salts with cream, the tartar.
Rochelle salts is cream of tartar.
Oh, it is cream tartar, and then some sugar and calcium carbonate, or is the calcium carbonate the Rochelle salt?
Okay, so I gave the basic stuff here the last show. You want me to do it again?
Yes, please, just for a refresher for the new people in here and myself as well, as I wrote it down, but I need to actually go out and buy these things. I'm sorry. For the next one, I will have all the materials needed.
Okay, so you're looking at 2 parts cream of tartar, and you can get bigger containers of it on Amazon. I got like a bag of it for $20, a cream of tartar, and so it's like a 2-pound bag or something. So 2 parts, So get
Hopefully everybody can remember the cream of tartar, right?
Which is also Rochelle salt.
No, Rochelle salts is cream of tartar and baking soda. So
Okay.
Rochelle salts is 2 parts cream of tartar, 1 part baking soda.
I understand now.
Okay, and then take 1/2 part of Epsom salts. Okay, and then take 1/4 part white sugar if you want to make the putty. If you don't want to make the putty, leave out the sugar. If you don't put the sugar in, you got about 30 seconds, maybe 45 seconds to pour that shit and get it in together. If you have the putty, you've got a lot longer time to work and play with it, and you can make a rope out of it, do whatever you want with it. So are we going to be working on putty, or are we going to be working on the hard cells?
Sounds like it's a no-brainer to add in that extra 1/4 part white sugar to keep it in the taffy form where it's malleable, moldable, and that you're able to continue using it
Right.
as opposed to it solidifying.
Yeah, you get it into like a stainless steel saucepan. That's not the short ones that you fry your grilled cheese on. You want something that's a thicker pot pan, and you can do it right there on your stove, and you put it on a low temperature on your stove and put in the same amount of water as you did sugar. So like your quarter cup, and distilled water is best, and you're not screwing around with fluoride and shit, in your stuff. So just put your quarter portion. You're going to do 1 cup, if you're doing cup portions, it's a quarter cup. And it's going to bubble up a lot when you add that water. So that no salt, that guy's using is potassium, which the cream of tartar is actually potassium. So anyway,
Bananas.
So that's somebody else's stuff that they're doing. Now, I mean, as I said, whatever it is that you're using in between these two metals, how I got that that little screw to work. I mean, I was using pins on a circuit board, little gold pins on these little breadboards, these circuit boards that my brother had. And I was getting over a volt off of each of those little pins. So I knew that was going to work. But when I came up with the putty, all you have to do is take that putty and you can make a little rope out of it and swing it around, whatever you got, and squish it in there and put your foil on it. So it's up to you if you want to use the sugar or not. It doesn't really change the amount of volts. And it's carbon, and hey, who doesn't like the Whore of Babylon, right? So anyway, I don't know what we're watching here. Somebody else's.
Oh yeah, this is the laser saber video that I've got on right now. That his videos of making it. So you're saying this is a bit different mix that he uses, so it's not as good of results as the ones that the instructions that you've given the
I
by
don't know.
adding the taffy.
I don't know. I've not made his thing. I know. I look at the amount of compound that he's using. It's just extraordinarily huge. It's like way too much. We have something that is a mil thick is plenty for this compound. So, and you need your sodium silicate too in order to make it that thin. You got to make sure that you put sodium silicate on each of your sides of your metals and let that dry, because that's going to make it so if you get so tight of a tolerance on there, you're not going to short out. You don't want to short out. But look at his stuff. Yeah. Okay.
And then waiting for him to move his hand. Here we go. So for just the general idea, it's that the outside here is the copper, which is the anode portion of it. And then you put the mixture, the taffy, the salt crystal mix in between. And then he's got the aluminum on the inside as the cathode, and coming out with the screw from it. And that you connect the positive to the anode, the negative to the cathode, and that is your battery.
Right. That's there. You've got the copper and the aluminum. Okay, so he's working with those two metals.
And from the chart that we showed earlier, if people want to increase the differential by using different elements. I will figure out a way to post the links for all of the charts and everything after the show here. And I'm sure Zertus will be able to also post it in his Discord.
Absolutely.
And that just an example that he's able to run a motor with a fan right there just off of the one simple cell.
Thank you, Memory Man, for posting the link to the Discord.
Great. So, I mean, I've had a bunch of those little screws put together and ran an LED off of it. And we're talking about the materials that, the amount of material that we just saw with that other cell versus the amount of material that I had. I would say I used probably...
Right, like this right here is the cell that you have that you're saying, and we can clearly see it's 2.3 volts just off of this small little amount. So for size and efficiency, the technology is able to be shrunken exponentially down from those original models. And point being that that video is 10 years old that we just shared to make the basic battery out of.
You mean the one from, not ours. No, ours.
No.
Yeah,
Yours is way more advanced. Absolutely. Where
no, I mean, the video that is posted on my YouTube is over 10 years old. And so over that period of time, we've refined it to this. What you showed me with that other person's power cell that he created, that's like 20 years ago stuff that John was doing. So I think what we're getting into something that's more refined and that can be used on a mass basis. You look at how many people are going to spend the money to make that. What was that? The dog?
EVO having fun.
Oh, the dog's playing back there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know what, and we've talked about this before, people aren't going to make, how many of those are they going to have to make to run their computer, right? And those cells that we just saw that were the other ones.
Oh, exactly, right? Where it'd just be far too inefficient, where with the tiny, what we have up right here, these little guys put into a compact series, you've actually got extremely useful potential right there.
Right, but we have to overcome the issue of when we get with series. I mean, the other thing, we've loaded capacitors with one that was up the size, that was about, what was the one that you loaded that big capacitor with? How big was it? Was it this big or was it this big?
Oh, that big.
The power cell was, or the capacitor was that big?
The capacitor was that big.
And the power cell was only about that big.
It was an electrolytic count.
Yeah, so he had a great big capacitor, and we had a power cell that was probably about that big, and a diode in it so that it made sure that it would load it, because I had tried loading them before, and they load them up and take them out, kind of a thing. So it wouldn't fill it. So John got the special diode on it. Was it a Galena diode that you had in it?
I think so.
A Galena diode, yeah. And so we just let it sit, didn't even pay attention for it. I don't know if it was on for a week or a month or whatever. And John came over with a fork and went like psh, to discharge it, and he welded the fork.
Yeah.
Wow.
Long time ago.
So that's the other thing, is that these little guys, okay, maybe they'll only stack up to 8 volts or whatever, and just start loading these little bitty capacitors on these circuit boards, and just take them off the capacitor when you need it. I mean, there's solutions.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what you're saying. There is the key to the evolution of this technology. You're bang on with that.
So yeah, and I'm really sure that other people who've built these cells, they can't get them to play along in series past 4 or 5 maybe 6. I mean, if you know, I've done some tricks with them, like putting them in different shapes and stuff, and gotten to give me more in the series. But you know, that's the challenge before this group. You know, you make some of these and realize that we've got to get past the challenge with these. Can only go maybe 5, stack them up 5 in series. Then we got to do something like take some power off. The other thing is if you don't take power, they go quiet. We've had lots of cells that we've had sitting for a year or two, and you know, when we're using them, they're at 1 volt, and by the time you set them, and then down to like 0.2 volts after a year, and you just start taking amps off of them and build them up. They'll build themselves back up just by working them, which I think is really interesting. It requires that movement happening, or otherwise it just kind of goes into stasis or something.
Almost like old radioelectrolytic capacity.
The same thing, huh?
Yeah.
I gotta get a hold of the dog. Hey! He's digging at my wire that I do for making coils.
To have a puppy again.
Yeah.
They
So,
get into everything.
Of course.
but I mean, the instructions on how to make the basic cell is sitting on my YouTube, but it just, think about that 2 parts cream of tartar, 1 part baking soda, and then you've got half a part of Epsom salts, 1/4 part sugar. So make some up and see how you do with that.
And I promise I will have some up for the next episode myself. Here is a clip of the one that Charlie made that he's been having running for almost 2 years now, powering his clock there. And he also used the aluminum and copper combination of it. But clearly this is one of the more basic designs as opposed to the much smaller version that you guys have been able to get it down to.
Okay, so the one that Charlie has, what's the compound that's being used?
I believe he said it was with the basic way that you described with the Rochelle salts, but without the sugar, just the
Yeah, it's like it weighs so much compound. The other thing is it's growing, and it will eventually, if the sodium silicate will basically glue the compound to the metal. Okay, so it acts as an adhesive. So when the Rochelle salts, if you don't have that thing totally encased, the Rochelle salts are going to bubble up like that. And so it will pull away from the metals, and basically the cell will go dead if you haven't put the sodium or the sodium silicate on it. Might happen in a year, it might happen in 10 years, whatever, but at some point that pulls away. And one of the ways to overcome that is you get Plasti Dip. And Plasti Dip is something that you can like dip the handles of your tools into, and you get this plastic grip thing that goes around the metal. And so you can either paint it on or actually dip the cell all the way in it. It totally encloses it in this rubbery plastic stuff. And so no air or humidity gets to it, and the Rochelle salt doesn't grow like that. So, and it won't pull away either, because it's not growing. If it's not growing.
Are you familiar with the Oxford bell, the Forever bell?
Yeah, John is. Yeah, more than I am. But yeah.
What do you think is going on with the Forever bell?
Isn't that a voltaic pile?
No,
Let me I'll pull up let me pull up some pictures because I guess maybe some of the audience is less familiar. The Forever Bell or the Oxford Bell is a bell here. There you go. That's been ringing since 1840 nonstop all the time, 24 hours a day since 1840. And it's made of these two, they're not candles. Inside of this are stacks of metal, right? And those stacks of metal are somehow batteries. And those batteries have been running nonstop since 1840. And they won't, it's inside of a big glass soundproof case, so no one has to listen to it all the time. But they're not going to turn it off and open it and figure out what's inside of it. So it's like this big secret because they're going to wait until it turns itself off. You know?
Somebody has replicated. It's a voltaic pile.
Okay, yeah. It's the most like so discs of metal of different kinds of metals stacked on top of each other, or what is the
Right, and they put a compound in between, and I tried doing that with power cells to create a voltaic pile like that, but I could not get it to stack. I could not get it to stay in series. It would only go to 5. So you look up voltaic piles, or what's the other? Zamboni, yeah.
But this makes perfect sense to you. Then you're saying the logic of a voltaic pile that could run indefinitely. Is it producing power? Is it generating power more than storing it? What's going on?
It's collecting. It's just collecting those differences between the metals.
So, but I mean, this thing's been running for literally centuries. How long can this battery run for? And what?
As long as the metals exist.
So it's going to slowly burn away at those metals for thousands of years. That's what you're saying?
No, I don't know if it's got a galvanic response that's going on there. You don't have. Maybe it's a very slight alkaline between the two. I don't know.
Huh? Interesting. Okay, so it might be producing like excreting salts or something while still.
Or electron gas.
Electron gas. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well. Is there a dimension, John, where that's safe?
Yeah, it's okay. It's safe. Tom Bearden refers to it a long time ago in free energy devices.
I'll take the puppy and get puppy
electron gas and from aged
you gonna be a good boy?
copper and those kind of metals that were made a long time ago are kind of not perfect as they are today.
So in general, then electron gas, do you think that there's maybe, what's kind of the potential here if we're talking about these kinds of free energy systems? How long can they last? And what is the effect? If the exhaust is electron gas, what if the entire world's putting out electron gas? And that's in everybody's battery.
Yeah, it could be. Basically the wiring at the time, so long ago, it's crudely made. Compared to nowadays, where it's really refined. And Thomas referred to those devices producing, or the wire itself producing electron gas. He refers to it. Which probably is quite true, because I had to myself use vintage everything to do what I do.
This also then makes me think, we like to talk about cream of tartar and the Tartarians, but seriously, folks, looking at piles of different kinds of metal, imagine you had a bunch of different coins. I mean, how crazy is it that someone might stumble upon a voltaic pile over the last few thousand years that humans have had metal coins of different kinds of metals?
Yeah, well, they have the Baghdad battery. That's another type of device, like a voltaic pile.
Yeah.
That's
But the History Channel, they always tell us in between the commercial breaks that, it was for, they use lemon juice or something. This is pretty feasible. I can imagine catch them all, get 12 different kinds of coins and you have a battery.
You don't need much current to gold plate something.
Yep.
And the Baghdad batteries are essentially like these alchemy reactors that from my experiments that I'm figuring out. So they were everywhere thousands of years ago.
Oh yeah. I probably think the ancient Egyptians maybe used the larger ones to electroplate things with.
Yeah.
So, like, how many Catholics does it take to stop the invention of a light bulb? Or what is the joke here? Because it sounds like at some point it was inevitable that someone was going to discover electricity over and over again, just in their pocket.
Many people in those days were discovering it. And many different old timers were playing with it and getting results. And
yeah, but
some don't make the history books or faded away. And
right, that's the sad truth about the most amazing.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's quite interesting.
He's a history buff, but I'm like a way back history buff. I like to talk about, hey, you know, these people were doing this tens of thousands of years ago.
They probably were, because in museums, there's basements with categorized artifacts from thousands of years ago, which the curators don't know how to categorize them, so they sit in the basement. Like stainless steel bars that have eons of rock around them.
What's the name of that one temple in Indonesia that is, it's got these giant straight stones that are cut?
Oh, I don't. In China?
No, it's in Indonesia.
Angkor Wat. No, it's Cambodia.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, the pyramid, Guangpengdong, I think is what it is. Guangpengdo or something.
No.
Yeah,
here,
they found in Guangdong. There we go.
You guys keep talking while I look for a second. I'll see if I can find it.
I know exactly which one you're talking about. But yeah, they found inside of it some working like device apparently within it, and it's like 20 or 30,000 years old.
Right.
Dan Hancock's saying now. And yeah, I'm absolutely with both of you, Nancy and John, in that our history is so much older than what they admit to, and that there must have been higher technologies in societies several times over.
Look how close Bernie was. Dang. He was like two vowels flipped is the only thing. It was like, that is mad good. Good job, bro.
Little dyslexic there.
I mean, yeah, but for words like from Indonesian, I don't know. I'm giving you credit. So you had to figure it out. And like for one remembrance, not bad. So this guy here, right? There's this giant temple and there's a bunch of them. And so what was really funny in the Graham Hancock episode and kind of relatable was he's like, so for the last 20 to 1,000 years, white people have been saying this was natural. And I didn't believe it. And I was like, no way. That's what we go through all the time. People pretending. Can you imagine someone told you that the pyramids were natural or like the Eiffel Tower was natural?
Humans, you know.
I mean, it's not. Humans are natural, right? I hear you. It's a level. Freemasonry is a natural thing. Yeah. But this isn't natural. You know, these stones are cut and it's racist. They're saying that Graham Hancock's racist for saying that this was done 20,000 years ago. And now, you know, he's like Indonesians had the possibility to do stuff. People had technology. It's possible. So it's amazing. Now they finally admitted, okay, this is not natural. We've gone in, we've like mainstream scientists even are like, okay, fine. You caught us. This is real. You're right. English people don't have to do everything. And indigenous people can build temples sometimes themselves as well.
Yeah.
And then the battery. What was the battery thing, Bernie? It's like inside. No, inside, because the thing is, it's
inside of this.
It's on a freaking volcano, and then they've got all this weird stuff in the volcano, which is like uranium and plutonium. You're not supposed to have plutonium. I don't just mean legally. Like the volcano's making plutonium by itself, like a meth lab, and they're just freaking out about it. And then so it has its own electricity. It has its own, and then they have stored it. I don't remember what the materials are, but some kinds of stone that have different kinds of metal in it. And then this is the big thing, because earlier, Nancy, you're talking about aluminum, right? And aluminum used to be so expensive. It was more expensive than gold until electrolysis. And then they could get it out of the rocks. So here we go, where we find another example where they have like high yields of aluminum, but we're going to lose all this if they start to admit things. And why are they this is the main kicker. Why do they pretend that a temple is natural, right? Is it just racism? Well, no, there's another thing here. The aluminum is valuable. So if it's a temple, you can't go tearing the thing up to get the aluminum out of it, right? So this is happening all over the world, where they're trying to tear apart these ancient megalithic building from you're saying 20,000 years ago, probably, and just use it for aluminum foil. Just terrible.
Wow, terrible. Right. Yeah. Horrible.
Well, and the stories are like of even the Spanish conquistadors when they came over to the Americas. The first thing they did was strip the metals down and the different piezoelectric crystals and materials off of the pyramids, like especially in Mexico there and whatnot. So it's like, have you guys ever gone around any of these ancient sites and done any tests around them, or what are your thoughts on that, on these ancient structures, pyramids, ley lines, and everything else? John.
Oh yeah, I was in Egypt for half a month or longer. I got to see all that stuff, and also in Luxor. And I must say that I was highly impressed. And I've seen what I call the scrapyard of relics. It was many acres of uncategorized items that I got to see. And it looked like they were just like brand new.
Really? In Egypt?
Yeah.
Great. Where is this scrapyard? I have not heard of it. Now I'm having major jealousy.
You're talking about in Luxor, right? In Luxor, the museum, or where did you get to go?
Every day we go to a different location. I was in Luxor. Our stay hotel was in Luxor, and the artifacts were in Luxor in the temples. Then we went to Valley of the Kings and Queens and so on. Every day we go to another location, which is a fairly long drive out to these places. And found they were excavating something in the sand. It was a dark, highly polished marble, square-shaped thing that went to the Nile River or something. I didn't get all the information.
Wow.
But I was just sitting on the sand and looking at all this stuff, and pretty soon have to head back to the hotel. Next day, head out to another place. But
You know, they got in Egypt. Did you see it where it looked like the people in the spaceships?
oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You know. Okay.
Incarnate.
Yeah. Now they say that was, proof of aliens, right? Why? Well, maybe it's proof that they had anti-grav vehicles and planes. Maybe that's what it's proof of. I mean,
I'm with you on that.
Most likely thing.
Human.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, so they're now doing excavations in the Sahara, and they're finding linguistic evidence that Sahara used to mean like bay or lagoon or like marshlands or something like that. And so they're like, that's not exactly desert. What happened? And so how long ago? Well, recently enough, it's still in linguistics. So they start saying, hey, maybe we look into ecological feedback loops, because then they started digging. They found that there's with the laser LiDAR, they found the Mega Chad and the Mega Congo, these giant super lakes, bigger than the Great Lakes, that are underneath the Sahara. Like, well, how long ago was that this thing was above the sand? And apparently there's whale bones and everything else. It's looking like within the last 1,000 years, probably within the last few centuries, we had a major ecological change and a lot of feedback loops that led to Middle Africa becoming desert when it used to be probably hyperpopulated. Maybe not to like today, but it was more there. I mean, around all of these areas that were water. Hey, what's up, Mike? How's it going?
Hey.
Just going on my Atlantis kick. Anyway, we got it. There's a lot of people that used to live in the desert, and it wasn't a desert. What have you been up to?
I just got back from a dinner party.
Oh, legit.
My wife's aunt's birthday, so we went out to dinner tonight. So
very good. I saw last time you 3D printed the case. How'd the case go? Does it fit?
Pretty good. Yep, fit perfectly at about maybe less than a quarter-inch, clearance for the wheel. So it was perfect fit.
That's just not here, though, right? You're at another space right now than the garage.
Yeah, I'm in my bedroom right now.
No worries. That's good that you separate the two, I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I try to keep steady and keep focused on one project at a time, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes people like to jump around all over the place. I try to stay on one project and stay focused on it. So I've made some big grounds in the last 6 months. So I'm getting ready to loop it. I hooked up my my oscilloscope to my laptop now, so I can start recording all the waveforms that are coming off the piezos. Seeing
So
like the
how are
piezos.
you? Did you tell us last time the software you're using, or is it the same software that what's his name?
Adam Space Case.
No, was it Adam? I thought it was Crit.
Oh yeah, he's using something totally different. My whole Adams motor is analog.
Sweet. So how are you measuring the sine waves? What are you using?
The sine wave, I'm using a Handtech oscilloscope, and I got it hooked up to my laptop, so now I can start recording all the waveforms and everything that's coming off. I got a shunt hooked up now, so I got to do some testing on it this weekend.
Sweet.
So,
yeah, I mean, I was looking. So do you have just like a simple, like the 2D 70 or whatever?
No, mine's the DSO 3D 210, I believe.
Okay.
It's pretty new. It's only about a year old, not even, maybe 6 months old. So it's pretty up to date.
Again, the D, was it?
DSO. Here, better yet, let me get it for you, and then you can see it.
Yeah,
It's actually
3D printing, are you?
This is pretty interesting stuff. I mean, like, even if you're just into like synthesizer music, you probably want an oscilloscope, and the kinds of stuff you can do with an oscilloscope to check your signals on your batteries and everything.
Oscilloscope, my bad.
But
John, Nancy, do you guys want to talk about the equipment you have for oscilloscopes? Because I've seen John's got quite a few in your shop there.
He's got the old tube ones.
We got funny feedback on somebody. This
is the one I got.
Oh, that's nice.
Your oscilloscope might be something to look at putting when you're hooking guys in series. Hook the oscilloscope up to them and see what happens when you like cross over that 7 or 8. It jumps back to 1. What if something happens on the oscilloscope? That would be good.
Well, I'm like on my setup right now. I'm finding the second I hook up the piezos into the circuit, there's a dramatic change on my reactive power. So it seems to jump up quite a bit, like going more than double the power output the second I hook up the piezos. So it's a very dramatic change in the waveform too. It seems like it's making the waveform wider. So like the actual pulse width is not just a transient spike anymore. It's actually it goes wider, and it also has a big ripple at the bottom. So it shows like there's some kind of like a feedback happening after the initial spike.
Now is that what he's talking about, the piezo?
Mike, I'm muting you when you're not talking, just as there's crazy feedback there. Sorry, Nancy, please continue.
Well, okay, so the piezo he's talking about, is that a power cell? What is it?
Here, I'll show you. I got one right here. They're just the little wafers.
Oh, the little wafers. What I was saying, hook that up to the power cell, because piezo, and we're trying to figure out when we put these in series, you can only go so far and
right, exactly. Same with the Adams motor. As soon as I go past 4 of them, it doesn't really make any more gains. So there is a limit. Yeah, you're definitely.
So when I put it but it'd be interesting to put it on the oscope, and as you're building it, in the series there, to see what changes happens in the oscope.
Oh yeah, there is a change. Oh yeah, the bandwidth, the width of the transient spike when it goes up, instead of just being a straight spike up, it's actually elongated on the linear. So it's going wider, and at the bottom when it should be diving down, I got like this wave, and then it curved.
But that's
so
your little piezo disc that you've got. I'm talking about a power cell, because power cell is going to have a different form to it, and you're going to be drawing power off of it too, and see what happens. Well, take the oscope, when you're not drawing power off of it, and then when you do draw power off of it, see what happens.
Do what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely try that out for sure.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, I made the carbon graphite magnesium cells, and they work really, really good. All you need is just a little dab of water on it, and the second the air hits it, wow, the power just go. I get about 1.6 to 1.8 volts per cell, and if I dead short them, they maintain about 75 to 100 milliamps of current, and it actually holds it, doesn't drop.
Yeah.
So I found that kind of interesting too.
And you're using 2 different metals there. What are you?
Yeah, I got the carbon graphite rod, and I put a separator. I just literally used paper towel, and then I spiral the magnesium strip all the way around with maybe about 1/8 of an inch gap between the spirals, all the way down. And then the center of the carbon graphite rod, I stick a piece of copper wire about 1/2 inch in and 1/2 inch out. So that would be your anode, and the cathode would be the magnesium strip. And yeah.
And what's in your piece of paper is what's between the 2 metals? That's all?
What, on the piezos?
No, she means the paper towel that holds the liquid and is between the carbon graphite and the magnesium.
Yeah, it's just the paper towel. Basically, that's the separator.
And there's nothing that's saturating the paper towel?
Yeah, a little bit of water. Just put a little bit of tap water or salt water, whatever you want. I had a friend that was actually using grapefruit extract, and apparently that makes a really good what do you call like an acid, like a natural type of battery acid that's non-corrosive, so it doesn't corrode the magnesium strip that fast, but still it creates a good electrolyte for it.
So what's the deal with metals in general? So like, is it the metal that people say having metals in your blood can be bad? Then they want to give you gold on sushi. What's the deal with metal? How good is metal in the blood? How bad is metal in the blood? Is it the metal itself, or is it something about what is going on in the metal?
Well, you got magnesium, and you've got potassium, you've got calcium, you have sodium. Those are all metals. Those are all in your blood.
Fair.
It's all in your body.
Okay, but what about lead and mercury, magnesium, not magnesium, aluminum? What about aluminum in the blood, right? I heard bad things about Alzheimer's from aluminum. Is there good and bad to aluminum?
As far as I know, there's not really much good in aluminum. It's mainly magnesium and zinc. Now I hear, believe it or not, calcium has a very, very important component to your brain function. Without calcium, basically your brain dies. So, yeah.
Aluminum does have one use. It's used as an adjuvant in vaccines. Makes your immune system go nuts.
Probably doesn't do any good for it.
Yeah.
Well, I think the only way we do power cells or one of those other metals is that we're going to have to get into, in the next phase, which is, something that's in a suspension, that's in a liquid, which is more of a life form. So, I mean, I brought this up when we first started talking, is that there's the ability now to create something that you can hold in your hand and it'll power a house. We're very close to that. We just have to figure out some of these quirks about putting this stuff in series. And we know we can get down on this if we want to eventually, the nanoscale. And maybe at that point we look at switching out the metals and making it in suspension instead of it as something that's a hard piece of metals putting together here, and we, versus something that's more fluid. So and then we create our own life forms, and maybe we'll go silicone based this time instead of carbon. What do you think, John? So.
I mean, it's not unlikely. I mean, the whole reality will shift around energy and salts and crystal in general. But it is interesting because we think of metals as something that they're not, which is, and the same thing with glass or any sort of material, ceramic. So metal is something that is a part of us in a lot of ways, and it helps with polarity. It sounds like. I don't know if you think there's a lot more going on there.
Oh, I think there's a lot more. Magnesium is one of those especially important things because magnesium is what gives you speed in your energy. It's what allows the energy in your body to move faster is the magnesium content. So, and most people are magnesium deficient.
Right.
Okay. Do you guys, is there any women here that take like hot baths and they put bath salts in? Epsom salts is one of them, but they also have these bath salts that are like from some ancient sea under the Alps in Germany. I've gotten that stuff. I got a big bag of that. And that was an ancient sea, and they're harvesting magnesium, right? Pure magnesium salts out of there. So that tells me that the ancient our planet used to have magnesium oceans and not sodium oceans.
Yeah, I mean, so there's been some evidence that the content of different salts and metals that are in the human bloodstream normally are about the same as what's in the ocean, except for the differences that they have to wonder what cataclysmic shift happened that reduced the amounts of salt. And they think it might have to do with glacial melting or something. There's just way more water to saturate less salt. That's a lot of there's too much change.
That's bullshit. There's
right.
I was looking at, but we still got our Leyden jars. That's what our oceans are. Our Leyden jars for our planet. I mean, they're holding all this energy. But can you imagine what the planet was like when it was magnesium and it wasn't salt?
Like Neptune or something? I don't know.
I mean, and and you're not supposed to drink seawater. It's like, why? And then you have all these pH waters that come out that are more alkaline than what's in the ocean. And you're not supposed to drink the ocean water, but you're supposed to drink this other stuff. Hey, we got to get him out of there.
Oh my goodness.
And
Hello.
yeah, somebody going after the cords right now.
Somebody.
Yeah, puppy.
So if we're the salt of the earth, and how do you lose your saltiness? I mean, that's another biblical thing. When you're the salt of the earth, you lose your saltiness, and you're cast aside and trodden on. Oh, you fucking die. That's right. When your body can no longer maintain its electricity, which is the salts, which is the blood that has to be alkaline, then you're no longer salty and you go into the earth and you're trodden on. Listen, I just realized that's what it is. So we got to have that. We got to have that. You know what pH means? Do you guys know what pH actually stands for? Anybody?
Forget. What does pH stand for? It's the potential of hydrogen, something like that. Probability of hydrogen.
Yes.
Okay.
Potential hydrogen.
Potential of hydrogen. My first one.
Okay. So potential hydrogen. Well, what the fuck does that mean? I mean, okay, I got a hunk of copper that has a potential of hydrogen in it, or it's got a negative potential, what does that mean? Well, if I got a pH in the salt, okay, let's say I got the salt, and so I'm sitting here with potassium, which is a metal too, by the way. That's interesting, isn't it? And so I've got these salts that are actually metals that have a potential of hydrogen in it.
per hydrogen. Thanks, Nolan. I remember hearing it. I was like, it's something like that.
No, it's hydrogen. You know, they've changed it, but it was originally potential of hydrogen.
Right, yeah. Potential.
So, okay, potential hydrogen. Potential, which is also voltage, okay? But so is
No.
Right. Potential voltage. That's interesting too.
right. So if your potential hydrogen, how does that relate to your potential, which is voltage? Well, when you've got those differentiations between your and you got your salty in between these two, now we got something happening here. It's talked about ancient stuff, but we lost it. You know, we lost that. I mean, that biblical thing about you are the salt of the earth. When you lose your saltiness, you're good for nothing and you're trod under. Well, it means that it has to do with the mechanics of the body and the salt in the body. And the salt in this whole system.
It's pretty bananas, the potassium part, literally and metaphorically. I like that this is the P, the potential. I mean, is there a secret link there with the P for potassium? Hey, what's up, Balderson? How's it going?
Hey, what's up, guys?
What about cesium?
It's an alkaline metal.
Right, and it's radioactive too.
What about cesium?
Well, it's a metal, and it can be radioactive. That's what we're just talking
Well,
about.
it's a very active metal unto itself, but
Yeah, you got to be careful about some of these guys that get so active, though. You know, that's the thing which is concerning about your water. When you're putting your water into between the two metals, you're going to have a galvanic response to that because it's going to oxidate. The oxygen from your water is going to cause a corrosion to happen, and that's not what we want. We don't want it to be eating up the metals. We want the metals to be stable, and we just want to pick up that differentiation between the two. So that's kind of why I put that chart up there. You know, let's avoid the galvanic stuff, and let's get into stuff that's more stable.
Interesting.
We have the magnesium problem.
What are we talking about here? Because that differential is what runs everything. Is that differential and that movement back and forth between the two?
Right. Do you want me to send you over a different one, or do you want to take the black out on that?
Yeah, if you can just turn off dark mode. If you have dark mode on in your appearances, I forget how to use Windows, so someone's gonna have to back me up here. But if you go to right click on your desktop, you go to appearance, and then you can turn off dark mode on your system, and then your system will be light screen, like white instead of the dark window. You get what I'm getting at.
Figure it out.
I'm insinuating you can make your screen inverted, and then it'll be fine. The other thing you can do is probably open that picture in a.
Did it work?
Not yet. Well, maybe. Let's find out.
Let's see. Maybe. Oh, I closed it. That's why.
Or you could send it to me.
Here's the waveform of the oscilloscope with the piezo's. You can see that big ripple at the end. See how it's still raised up? So without the piezo's, that ripple at the end doesn't exist.
Here, just send the picture to me. Is it in private chat?
What the heck? I literally changed everything to light mode, and it still does it black in the photo. I don't know what the heck.
Okay, I'm gonna email it to you.
Just send it in the private chat as a link to me right now, and I can open it.
I don't have that. It's in different computers, so.
Oh, good. Yeah, if you email it to me, I'll send it over. I'll forward it to Zertus right now, actually.
Send it to Bernie.
It's a little better picture. So you can see that big ripple at the end. You got the big spike, and then it creates that ripple in the middle and kind of continues, then it drops, and then it continues the same cycle again. That's the piezos. And the other waveform just has the initial spike, and that's about it.
That's good. What kind of piezos are you using?
The ones I just showed you, those little wafers, 4 of them in series. They're 30 volt, and I think they take like 20 milliamps. That's about it. They're nothing special, but they do work.
Oh yeah. Well, is it quartz or barium titrate?
Yeah, quartz. These ones are quartz.
Good. Interesting
Pretty.
stuff.
Yeah, so it's really helping on the reactive power of the system. It just really boosts everything up.
That's good. That's good. Any of you guys ever tried self-reactive materials like self-powered telephones and all that kind of neat stuff that they had a long time ago?
I heard I heard some people experimenting with those old analog buzzards, with the big coil and it have the little armature on it. Yeah. And I heard these old, I think it was a radio that they had, and it had the light in it. And when the guy would cut the power off, it would run 40 watts for about 40 seconds after he cuts the power out. It just continued to buzz away and produce power. It's really weird.
Oh, that stuff gets interesting sometimes, and dangerous as well.
Yeah, disruptive discharge, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, so do I. Let's speak about self-powering wax materials like electrics. They manufacture it, and it's self-reactive material.
Where did they make that?
Those you can actually make with a lot of natural waxes.
Yeah,
super easy.
Really?
Yeah.
What you got over there?
See, like the motor I'm working on right now, it works basically on the Joseph Newman principle. High voltage and very, very little amperage. Like my motor, I got it down to 20 milliamps. And it's...
Newman. I know him years ago. I lost contact with him.
I'll get some water for us.
He's still around.
Yeah. No, Joseph Newman died, I think it was at least 6 to 8 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, he was in his mid-70s when he passed away. I think he was like 77 or something like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen him or seen any videos of him.
Yeah, well, the last video I seen, he was using the small little 9-volt batteries, and he would hook them all up in series. So his motor weighed 7,000 pounds. He was putting 460 volts DC at 20 milliamps, and it was moving a 7,000 pound motor.
I love it. That's the way to do it.
That's the way you do it. That's the key right there.
Oh, hell yeah.
Higher voltage, little amperage. That's the key.
Mm-hmm.
Because then after that, it's easy to loop the power back into those tiny batteries and just, fill them up again. The thing would run indefinitely.
Uh-huh. Some of the old technology, all right. It does work.
Yes. But that's kind of what my motor is working. I'm shooting to get my motor up to about 64 volts eventually. Mm-hmm. The highest is right now I'm at 32, the highest. So eventually I want to get it up to 64 volts and see what kind of reactive power I can get out of it.
Awesome idea. Yeah.
Yeah. And the funny thing is too, like I'll grab the motor wheel while it's running full out. I'll grab that wheel to the point where it almost stops.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't draw any more current. It stays the same.
That is intriguing, yeah.
Yeah, it defeated Lenz's law.
Wow.
So,
So
pretty interesting.
So there's our chart is up now. And it's like, I just think it's best to stay over in the green zone and combining your different metals. because you don't want the galvanic action happening, and you don't want something that's too alkaline, and you don't want to have something that's got water in it, because the water is going to cause it. I've done that where I've had really wet cells, and there's too much water in it, and you got lots of power, but all it was doing was eating up the metals. I mean, we might as well just have batteries then, right?
Yeah, see, I find with the magnesium graphite batteries, the air is a very important component, not just the water. So the actual real name is a carbon magnesium air battery. So it needs the air for the reaction to happen.
The excess water might actually be from your Epsom salts, because shockingly, the majority by weight of Epsom salts is just water.
Right. Well, you cook it all up. What you're doing in this process is you want to get the water out, and I think the last time I talked about how to when you've got the putty. I have a stainless steel counter that or table that I'll just keep flapping, whacking it onto until it holds its form and I can work with it. But I've done it so much I know at what point all the water's gone. That's something that you guys are going to have to just work on to know, unless you have some type of a meter that you can throw in the stuff to see just how much water is still in it. I just cook really well, and this whole putty thing comes from saltwater taffy. Saltwater taffy is inert sugar. It's sugar that you add some cream of tartar to, so the sugar never recrystallizes. It stays as a taffy, and I just went the opposite and added a little bit of sugar into the cream of tartar compound. So, I mean, a lot of the heavy lifting has been done on this. It's just like getting to that next spot of solving this issue with putting them into series, or just, I think that the oscilloscope is a really good idea. Any way of monitoring what happens when you stack this up. And if you go back to, let's go to the next one. Back one. No, we're just keep going to where there. You just there, okay? That white piece is foil. I was working with foil, different layers of foil, and if you look at that, nothing is hooked up, and I've got 1.035 volts running in the air just around the cell.
So it's no ground, just one wire.
There's nothing hooked up.
Oh,
nothing is hooked up. You see the red pointy, it's not hooked up to anything. The black pointy is hooked up to a lead that's not hooked up to anything. Nothing is hooked up.
And it's picking up power.
Yeah, in the air, right there.
Really?
Yes, that was picking up a volt in the air.
Wow.
But see, right next to it is the cell. So, maybe we got stray voltage running around that's screwing up, and that's why we can't go into series.
Would it possibly be a longitudinal wave that's being emitted?
I didn't catch what you said.
Would it be a longitudinal wave that's being emitted somehow, and it's picking it up in the air?
Sure. When you move from point A to point B, you're creating an electromagnetic field.
Right.
Okay, so these cells are creating electromagnetic fields because they're picking it up and they're moving. You're moving the electricity, and it's going to give off an electromagnetic field because you're moving.
Right.
So
now, if you were to say take a very small coil with the power meter hooked up to the little coil, and you move it through that field fast, would that increase potential coming out? because going back to like Faraday's law.
Don't know. The other thing is that these are all cylinders, and I've made dozens of different shapes, including spheres, but I've never taken my spheres and tried to put them into a series. So it could be that the cylinder doesn't work in a series, but a different shape might work.
Can you go further into when you had them in the shapes of balls, and that you had mentioned before, Nancy, when they're in a spherical shape, the cells, and you were hitting them with RF, you were able to get them into AC batteries? Is that correct?
Yeah, the cylinder, when you hit it with RF, which is what we're doing making the Johnny tubes that were doped with the stuff that was recorded on it, the magnetite. When we'd hit those with the RF, and then I checked them, I checked them to see if the recording was on it. I checked them for the power, and like 1 out of 3 of those cylinder ones would give off AC and DC power both. When I made them in the shape of a sphere, without putting any RF on them, I would get AC and DC both. You just check it on the meter, And
that's when you made it with magnetite? Sorry to interrupt.
Well, we made it with okay, we're down the Gulf of Mexico, and we get back up here, and we ended up going out to the Oregon and trying to find a way to stop the Fukushima shit from happening. And we realized that what we had, we didn't have that big of a bubble we made. So we had to make some extra units, little mobile units, if you want to call them that. And we took the power cell and we doped it with magnetite. And then we used a starter coil, a coil from a starter motor, and put the cylinder inside of that and hit it with the audio and RF at the same time for about an hour. And it recorded onto the magnetite that's in the cell. And so then every one of them I checked, and we did some orgonite stuff on it, wrapping it with steel wool and wool. And the dog's chewing up the carpet right now. And so, yeah. So those guys would give off AC and DC. Then when I did spheres, and the spheres, you didn't have to hit it with the RF. It would give off AC and DC. And then I did a Mobius strip, and that was really fun because you got different power readings all along the strip.
So the geometry specifically affects the type of energy coming out.
Absolutely. And the screw is important because you've got more surface area and you've got a path for that electricity to run on. It likes the spirals. It likes circles.
Sharp.
And it's sharp. Yeah. And so that's
sharp things like sucking in power.
Oh, that's the other trick is the aluminum foil. You scuff it up before you put the sodium silicate on it. You just take some sandpaper to it and scuff it up, and so you get more surface area. You get little pointy things. And I've also taken and rifled like a copper tube, and you make a spiral inside of it. And in fact, all of our pipes for our water pipes in the U.S. used to be that way, so that the water would maintain its aliveness, its integrity, its energy. But that became too expensive, and now we have flat pipes. But that's what they used to have, is spirals. And when we were in Oregon, we actually put in a spiral, an auger, and hit it with in our water lines, and hit it with RF, so our water was all infused with the radio frequencies. So anyway, that's off topic.
Interesting nonetheless.
So when we're looking at these these power cells, yeah. And when you got the putty, it's so nice because you can roll it out, you know, with a little rolling pin or squish it in between your fingers, or you make a rope and you can spiral it around stuff. I took and made a little rope, and I took 2 different wires and just put it in between the 2 different wires, and I made a great big flat spiral out of it. That was a nice one. I gave that out to a bunch of people.
I have a question for you. I have a little cylinder about 3 inches long of liquid gallium. What kind of stuff can I do with gallium?
Gallium's got lead in it, doesn't it?
No, gallium is a single atomic element.
Okay.
It acts like it melts around 70 degrees or something like that.
Yeah, as soon as you put it in your hands, it starts liquefying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that the one that eats through aluminum really aggressively?
Yeah, it destroys. It destroys aluminum.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't know if I want to do that.
Gallium? It's a metal.
Yeah, but
Well, it's very interesting because like mercury, it will eat aluminum, but it doesn't because of the oxidation creates a little barrier. The gallium, it doesn't seem to have that issue where you have to kind of scuff aluminum up to get it to react with mercury. You don't really have to do it with gallium. That's really interesting.
Well, I think, you know, those more I wouldn't call them exotic, but those types of metals might not be appropriate right now. It might be something in the future that could be really interesting. But
yeah.
But we're talking about trying to do something within the system that we have. And if you want to check him. I just went to him. What's he doing? God's getting into something.
Well, I hear something back there.
So, you want to run over there?
I can.
Okay.
So, yeah, those metals all are quite unique. Oh, here he is.
There he is. Okay.
Hi, what happened, kiddo?
Yes, EVO.
EVO.
Exotic vacuum object. He looks like Ken Shoulders too.
Yeah.
So.
You named your puppy EVO?
Yeah.
That is so cute. That's amazing.
EVO.
I'm sure Ken would be happy.
Come on, EVO. Come on. Yeah.
Ben, Mike, do you have any other questions here? Ben, I came in a little bit late, but we've been talking about the crystal battery power cells and building them. There, look at the puppy. There's EVO.
My good friend of mine just got a puppy, Alaskan Malamute.
Oh.
They're a giant dog when they're fully grown. Holy cow. They're huge. They're like...
They're the ones that hate cats? Or is
it's like a giant friggin' husky, like the biggest husky you could ever imagine. This thing's like a horse. It's about 160 pounds fully grown.
Oh.
They're huge.
Big.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, do you guys have any questions about the power cells? What I was hoping is we could set up like a certain day. Now we've got the holidays coming, so it might be hard to do that. But if we say, Friday night, I guess you can't have date night or whatever if you're going to do it on Friday nights, or if we have
I'm married.
A certain night that we want to meet up, or a day, whatever it is, or on the weekend. But we say every week or every 2 weeks or once a month, whatever it is, that we get together and do a show and tell on what's going on.
100%. I love that. I'd say we'll start it out every second week, and maybe Fridays aren't good. Maybe we'll do Sundays, but
Sundays are pretty good. Yeah.
Sundays are good.
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, that's a perfect idea, right? To do the reoccurring one. And for the next one from 2 weeks from now, I will 100% get everything that I need to make the batteries myself, to do a live demonstration of the crystal compound itself. while getting your instruction to make them in the smaller scale size as opposed to the inefficient large ones, and combining everybody's minds and works that we are doing together to make this actually applicable and accessible to everybody.
Right. So, and like people, the vast majority of people are not going to go out and make these, but it's to say, look, this is the science. This is what's going to change everything, and I think we could set up our own currency with it. So we can talk about that later too.
Right, because the trade of a never dying battery, and once we get them down into more higher voltage and charge use of it in smaller sizes, truly unlimited energy once we get it working properly.
Yeah.
Definitely wish I would have been using the full talk.
Don't need a big nuclear power plant. We don't need a exotic vacuum object, which is the stuff that head shoulders and the EVOs and stuff, and yes, that's interesting science, but what we need now is a solution, and it's a simple solution, and it doesn't, and literally a 4-year-old can make these. I mean, they can understand, these two different metals, and you put the salty in between, but I mean, it's a real simple system that once it's miniaturized can make a world of difference. Look at how tiny that screw is. I don't know if you can see. You see the
right,
size?
like right here, that's smaller than a penny, and it's given 2.3 volts just off of that little cell right there. That's phenomenal right there.
See a penny, pick it up all day long. You'll have good luck. How long? All day long.
I mean, there's probably, you could put 15 of those screws on that penny.
Or one Joe Rogan.
Well, there's the next picture shows how big it is. I think there's
There we go. There we go.
Who said that?
You see?
Me?
You see
That was great.
the rig, he's slamming around his metal bowl. So the ridge on the black there, the electrical tape, the little ridge on the black, that is the screw. That's the size of it. What, 20 or 30 of them on a penny. And you can get it, that's the larger the screws. So we can put this on a circuit board. We can stack the circuit boards. How many capacitors?
I mean, where's my picture again? Hey, Bernie, can you pull up in my my picture again for a second? I mean, again, with the whole, we could be building these for eternity batteries, right? The eternity battery, the Oxford eternity battery out of this. There's different stacks of these different kinds of metal. And the fact that it's been done and that the Oxford battery, right, is 1840 has been running and it hasn't been turned off, but they don't want to turn it off to find out what's in it. That just tells you free energy is everywhere. It's been around forever, and it's time for us to actually just build.
That looks a lot like what Alexander Volta was working with. He was working with the round discs of different metals,
right?
And he called it a pile.
Yeah, that's the pile battery. The pile battery. Have you seen this? The Oxford Bell. It's ringing behind glass, so you can't hear it, but it's never turned off since 1840. It just rings nonstop, 24 hours a day. I mean, if we start looking into these pile batteries, granted, there's on both ends of sophistication. John Hutchinson and Nancy on one end, and then Archimedes and Hypatia on the other. But here we go. We're almost there.
Are we sure that every disc is metal, or some of those are?
Dude, we are not. I believe that there's tungsten. I think that there's some kinds of
I think there's magnesium.
I think there's salts. I believe that part of the deal is it's generating crystal after some, the different resonance is designing the direction the crystal's growing. I think all of these things are important. I just don't know exactly what the stack is yet, but I don't think it's just guesswork necessarily. However, I think part of the deal is going to be 1,000 different dudes in their in their garages stacking different kinds of metal together. And it seems like that is intuitive. At some point in history, somebody had a coin from every kingdom and you stacked the different metals together and it did something. I feel like that's kind of that's the gauntlet.
See, Pogs were a psyop all along.
I knew it. I knew there was something deeper there, right?
He wanted to eat.
Yeah, I can hear your dog in the background. I think we were about 2 hours deep. I want to say thank you for the time that you took to give us so much of the, not just information and wisdom, but also evidence. You're showing us these actual things. It's amazing. So thank you. Can't wait to
teaching us how to build these technologies. And yeah, we'll keep it to 2 hours tonight, but we will definitely be back. I like we'll start with the 2-week plan every 2 weeks, and then eventually we'll be able to build it up to once a week sort of thing, because that's what it is all about in this community, coming forward, developing it, and getting the hands-on of a bunch of us reproducing it so that everybody can see that it's real, it's attainable, it's easy, and it's just a matter of us doing it. And that's exactly what we are doing. And
having said that, it's not just 2 weeks. It's next week also we'll do another Real Science Journal. So you guys are welcome anytime. Balderson, hope you're back. Mike, let's definitely go back to the lab and see where things are going. I mean, you're going to get there in front of our eyes. So that's pretty impressive and amazing. So thank you for doing that. Simon, glad you came as well. And then I think we're also going to expect Adam, just shout out to Adam and to Chris. Is that my thinking right guy? Chris? Casey, Chris.
Gerald?
No, Gerald's awesome too.
And
Who's the
Jeremiah.
kid? Who's the kid in the lab in Texas?
Oh, right. Charlie was supposed to make it.
Charlie, my new dark horse, my up and comer. We love you, Charlie. Can't wait to see you next
tomorrow
time.
We will be back, or at least I will. I think you'll do it on your channel too with Alien Scientist. Also, Jeremy Reese will be out of the shadows to do APEC tomorrow, so we will all
into
be
the ether
APEC at noon time. So you are all welcome. And John, Nancy, I can also send you the Zoom link to APEC conference tomorrow if you guys want to come on and talk at some point in the afternoon. Up to you guys. No pressure, no worries, but the community always loves you, so you're more than welcome.
Okay, thank you. It's been nice, and it'd be nice to actually take this and go off with it. John's been saying for 20 years it needs to be miniaturized.
Right.
I got it miniaturized. Let's get it.
Nano time.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go with it.
Wish I'd been here for the whole conversation.
Don't worry, dude. Actually, probably tomorrow. We'll talk after this. Let's get you and let's do some more stuff soon. I look forward to having you on again, and we'll be doing some more stuff. I know you've been doing some, experiments on your own as well. So it's just real science is all the time, man. We're all about it.
Real science.
100%. And that was a lot of biochemical talk. So I really wish that the galvanic cells, things like that. That's wish I'd been here for all of this.
You know what? In 2 weeks,
watch it. We'll definitely have you on from the beginning on the next one.
Yep.
And so just to show here, in recapping, this little tiny guy down here, the little silver screw and aluminum with the salts in between, that's the battery cell, smaller than a penny, and it's producing 2.3 volts right there.
So you've just got a basic screw. You've got what type of salt? What type of salt do you got in there?
That's the Rochelle salt compound. That's actually the putty. That's the one that has. I went over the.
The formula is recorded several times in this episode and the past. We'll go through it again later.
I will rewatch it. Yeah,
exactly. And we will get all the materials ready where we'll actually be making these in our own little labs for the next one in 2 weeks' time. And Ben, I'll get you up to date on all of it. It's quite fantastic and fascinating stuff.
We are moving fast with singular vision. It's going to be great.
Yeah, and you can do a review from my YouTube on just how to do a regular power cell. But what we talked about here is how to miniaturize it and use that addition of sugar. Now, there's no other doping that's done in this because you're getting so small, and if you're putting in doping, you can really short the cell out if you're only like a mil thick. and you might have a piece of that doping material that shorts the cell out. So that's why there's no doping in this when you get into the really tiny stuff. And we could add back the doping as long as we can. I didn't have something that I could, get a fine enough grain on that material. I was just taking a file and using that to dope it. So right now, think about the cell phones. Remember when cell phones came out? I'm sure you were all alive. And they had this big bag. And
Yep, the bag phone. I had the bag phone.
Car phones.
Okay, like my cell phone number is the same number from that bag phone.
That's what, circa 1994.
Okay, and I just finally graduated to an iPhone because I really, really feel a phone is a phone, and I don't want all the other shit. And so. And I had this nice military grade flip phone for 11 years, and now G3 went off, and I got to go and do my. Now I don't really want to mess around with the fucking iPhone, and now they have these watches that you can,
See, the irony being, I believe in you, and that's exactly how I felt. And then I tried to buy a bunch of this stuff, and I was like, wait, $600 for this, $500 for that, or you can get the app, and I was freaking out because basically on the phone. You could have 1,000 different things besides, the phone part, sure. But you can get an oscilloscope on your phone. You can get there's amazing things you can do with the dang thing now. Infrared cameras and whatever. I don't know.
So let me finish up. So John's power cells were landline, rotary dial phones. Okay. We are at the bag phone right now. We're at the point of changing the technology and changing literally the world, but we got to get the fucking bag phone done. And once we get that done, then we can go on to the other stuff and do these Star Trek-y biopack things.
Right. Can you pull up my screen for a quick second, Bernie? So what I'd like to see is maybe some usages of different kinds of metallic foils. There, you can get metals that aren't.
You got to share your screen.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Guys did the foils, okay?
You did, yeah.
They don't like flat. They like to be in at the very least a cylinder, okay? But they really go to Etsy. Come on, find your feminine side. Go to Etsy and go find some of these jewelry findings that are silver plated or gold plated. That's where I got the screws.
And while you're on Etsy, buy some of my merchandise, right?
What about making it like a cinnamon roll?
Okay, so I did that too. And so what you got is you got a negative, positive. It's really kind of cool what happens. So it's almost like you create this huge layering thing. I've done that too. So, but that was with the bigger ones. I didn't do that with the little ones. But look under jewelry findings, or like silver-plated jewelry screw, and I just got all kinds of different shapes and things, and the balls were amazing. These little balls, there's so. Like these guys, they have these interesting forms and
intricate, tiny, refined jewelry. The best metal workers. Got it. That's brilliant.
Right. Have you tried using a metal, or not metal, but organic material that has metal plated to it?
Well, yeah, it's
rather than metal on metal and organic with a metal on top.
Right. There's plastic that's got like metal coatings on it, or whatever. They got the as long as you've got an actual, you got to be careful about that because they might say it's silver plated and it's not. So
right. I like what you're talking about with the pumice stone, though. It might be that there's different directions and ways things can go, and it's making more surface area with smaller volume in this sort of lightning tangential path. There's all kinds of ways that it can make sense that you could be using less metal to get more charge spread out in a bigger field.
Right.
But your point is taken that this is like an old phone, and we're now about to build the new app phone that can do everything with this stuff.
Right. I even use metal-based paints, conductive paints. So
there we go.
I've done all these kind of things. I painted all these things onto glass orbs and stuff. And I got power, coming off my glass orb with the metal, but it wasn't as good as that damn screw. So I've literally done thousands of these cells.
Brittany here is saying the Oxford bell from 1820s and metal foil alternating with paper coated with manganese dioxide. What do you think of that? Manganese dioxide?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Well, and paper's very.
Everyone's all chill about it. Apparently, apparently the eternal battery. Okay, manganese dioxide. All right.
The paper's interesting because again, there's your mix of organic material. It all reminds me very much of Wilhelm
Oregon.
Yeah, Wilhelm Reich
and von Reichenbach, right?
Where
the Odic forces.
Yeah, it was metal, but then he also had inorganic materials layered in.
Paper made of wood, made from certain kinds of trees. Because it's a certain kind of ultra thin. That's very interesting because it's like almost an aerogel before you. Yeah.
Yeah. So you just play around with it for a couple weeks, but I'll tell you, the foils are problematic because you can't stack them. They don't like them. I'm going to tell you one other thing, and maybe you got some kind of idea to come out of it. Because I cannot explain it. This was, how many years ago? This is back in Minnesota. It's got to be 13, 14 years ago. And had a coffee table with a glass top. And had a friend over that used to come and work on these power cells with us. And cleaned off, we used to do it on the coffee table. So I just, wiped off the coffee table. It was all full of the compound and stuff as we were building these things, and I guess I didn't wipe it off very well, because in the morning I come out and there's this very thin film across the entire glass plate, and it was all these crystals that were about 3/4 of an inch by 1/2 an inch, all interlocked together. Okay. Well, that looks really cool, right? Then I took out the meter and I went from one point on the crystal to the other, and I was getting anywhere from 0.7 to 1 volt on each of those crystals on that glass. No fucking
there you
metal. No fucking metal. No metal. Just sitting on the glass. Figure that one out.
Energy is everywhere.
Casimir effect.
Yeah, who knows? They were dope. They were dope. So there was some metals in the compound because it had calcium.
See, that's what I'm thinking is the aerogel, and you could even get metal shavings in your paper, and there's all kinds of ways that that they could have made paper, and we're not even sure about that. But the different kinds of materials that they could have used, it would have made it possible for, again, more surface area, less volume in between. For electron jump.
Well, I've just, maybe a couple of you guys try that. And then it air dried. It was wet. Okay. There was no heat. And so it recrystallized on the glass. And maybe you guys can figure out how to make that work, because that was just amazing. But it just...
We got to play with aerogels. I think that, the idea of an organic solution with metals in it, and that if we can control, I've seen them control toothpaste. I remember when they had the different colors. I bet you we could do that with metal. I'm pretty sure with an aerogel. And so there's definitely a solution here that could be a really interesting tiny battery.
Yeah, be really cool.
So that's someone asked earlier, is it a battery or is it a fuel cell? Because it is it seems like it's growing, like you're growing crystals. So this is a battery that's growing.
Well, yeah. But I didn't have an anode or a cathode on. I was just doing the points on the crystals, in between the crystals, and they're next to each other. They're like this, and I'm just picking up on them wherever their points were. So
It's funny. Someone's asking here. They're like, "Is there an unknown energy that science can't detect?" I was like, the thing about science and energy is that energy is detectable in weird, insinuatory ways, all different ways. And yeah, there are people that are colorblind, there are people that are deaf, but there are people that are sensitive enough to pick up a lot of those things without technology. And then there's certain kinds of technology that extend our perception. So I think that's the funny thing about magic is science proves that all of these things we call magic both exist, and that magic is kind of like trademarking. It's just a way. It's kind of like how Coca-Cola hides its recipe. It's magic. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's just that we're not allowed to know the scientific tools behind it.
Right. I mean, I'm from the age when the car stops, on the side of the road, that you don't automatically get on your iPhone and call your friends up and post it on Facebook. I mean, that's not what my group. My group is, am I out of gas? Okay. Is my battery dead? Lift the hood up. I mean, people don't do that anymore. They don't go and they don't even know the mechanics of the devices that they depend on every day.
Right.
And that's
they want to make it illegal. You're not allowed to open up your Xbox. You're supposed to know. They burned all of Reich's books and von Reichenbach's, work. Right. They don't want people to think about it.
Right. Well, yeah. So now we get to think about it, because the thought is the word is the act. And the more that we think about it, the more the energy, and as we get a synergistic energy going here. And because our thoughts are energy. And actually, so is these dang crystals are thoughts. So, we'll get into all that goofy shit later. But,
right. Well, guys, make sure that you check out Nancy and John's YouTube channel, because there's a lot of videos there going way back before you ever thought about free energy, and they're already working. They already have functional things. So, it's time that we all start building. It's not a question. No, it's time to just make the things. Let's work together, make them better. That's all there is to it at this point.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So we'll be back in
and Balderson, let's do something soon. I want to talk more about Reich, von Reichenbach, Odic forces, Odic light. I think that there's something there that we got to get on about for sure.
All right, guys, we'll talk to you in a little bit.
For sure. Much love and respect, Nancy, John. Thank you so much for all that you do and for joining us tonight. Ben, thanks for being here. Mike, thank you as always. Zertis as well, and we will be back tomorrow for APEC and hopefully see everybody there. All the links are in the live chat for everybody's channels, and I will update to post them in the descriptions as well.
Epic.
All right. With that note, we will see you all tomorrow. Much love.